Okay, so I'm just finishing this up. The first video cut off, but here we go. I'm just going to go ahead and finish this one. So I got to start at -2, and I want values greater than or equal to -2. So -2 is fine. It actually is included. I'll just go ahead and start it just when I graph it to remind myself to think about that. And then values greater than -2, like -1, 0. You could even keep going if you want. So I'm going to plug it in and take away 3. So if I plug in -2, that will give me a -5. If I plug in -1, that'll give me -4. Plug in 0, get a -3. So that first point right there is going to be closed. So let's see it, -2 down 5. So I'm actually going to go ahead and put a closed circle. And then let's see, -1, -4, and then 0, -3. And so I'm going to go ahead and put that here. Let's see, yeah, that looks pretty good right there. And there you go. One thing that I just remembered is I forgot to go over the range part. So I'm going to go back up here real quick and go over the range of this function. Then we'll look at the one down below. So if you remember, range is just, you want to look at it from the bottom to the top. And you just list all the values that you can see. So if you look right here, these y values go down indefinitely. So that's going to be -infinity all the way up to 0. So the first part's going to be from -infinity up to 0. 0 is included, so I bracket that in. Okay. And then union or and or however you want to write this, we do have y being 2 up here. It's not 2 right here where the open circle is at, but all these other points, the y value is 2. So you want to include 2 also as part of your range. And there you go. Okay, so going back down to 47. Okay, so when we look at this one, a lot of times students will say, well, I guess it goes from -infinity up to 1, not including 1, and then it goes from -5 to +infinity. And it's not that that's not correct, but if you really look at it, there's some overlap here, okay? And it's not necessary to list the overlap here, okay? So the range right here, yes, this goes down to -infinity, this goes up to +infinity. There's a little bit of overlap in the middle, but you don't need to write it twice. So really the range is just going to be from negative to +infinity. And that's it. That's the range. Okay, the next one, as I come down, oops, here we go. Right here, let's see, so I have, for this, I have my first one would be equal to 3 if x is less than or equal to -1. So we'll call this y1 is equal to 3. And then we'll look at it with this parameter right here. All right, so y1 is just going to equal 3 for your whole table. And so we want to start at -1 and go less than or equal to -1. So -1, -2, -3. Okay, put a little thing right there. And so all of them are just going to be 3, 3, 3. There we go. Okay, so at -1, we're up here at 3, closed circle, because you get to include that point. And then -2, 3, -3, 3. We'll go ahead and draw that real quick. Here we go, just like that. All right, and so the second equation, the second part of this piecewise function, we'll call that y2, is equal to -3. Now this time the parameters are for when x is greater than -1. So even though -1 is not included, we'll start there, and then values greater would be like 0, +1. In this case, they all equal -3. So there we go. So let's see, at -1, we're at -3, but this time we're going to have an open circle, right? And then at 0, -3, at 1, -3, and we'll go ahead and draw that line going across right there. And that's our graph. And so then the range on this, if you go from bottom to top, it looks like we have just -3 and positive 3. Those are so just two values. So negative 3, positive 3. That's your range. That's it. Okay, so I got one more slide of these, and all it's going to be is we're just going to add a third one, okay? All right, so we're going to have to color code this in 3 different colors. So we'll start with this one right here. We'll do this in purple. So we'll call this one y1. It's going to be equal to x plus 1. And this is only going to be for values that are less than or equal to negative 3. Oops. Let's see. There we go. X, y. Okay. And so values less than or equal to negative 3. So we'll start at negative 3, negative 4, and negative 5. And so we do get to include it. So if you want to, you can put a star. I'll just put a closed circle because there's going to be a couple more than the previous page. So I'll put a closed circle there. All right. So when you plug in negative 3 plus 1, that's going to be negative 2. Negative 4 plus 1, that's going to be negative 3. Negative 5 plus 1, that's going to be negative 4. So at negative 3, negative 2, we got a closed circle here. Then at negative 4, oops, I need to go a little further down. So let's see. So then at negative 4, we're down at negative 3, and negative 5, we're down at negative 4. There we go. And we'll go ahead and, oops, there we go, draw that. That looks good. Okay, and so our next one, let's see, we can do that in blue. And so here it is. So for, we'll call this y2 is going to equal negative 1. Okay, and so we're going to create a table, and we need to pick some points between negative 3 and 4. And you do want to pick those endpoints, though, so that we know how to, when we graph it. So I want to have something at negative 3. I could do negative 2, negative 1. I'm just going to go ahead and jump to 0. And then I'm going to go ahead and jump to 4. Now, negative 3 and 4, you can see that those points are not included. So I'm just going to go ahead. You can put stars or whatever. This time, I guess I'll just do open circles next to it so I can kind of remind myself that those are going to be open. Now, finding these points are really easy because it just defaults to negative 1 in all these cases. So negative 1, negative 1, negative 1. So it's just going to be a flat line going across. But what's important is that at negative 3, negative 1, I need to put an open circle. Okay. Now at 0, negative 1, that's just a normal point. Everything in between is just going to be normal points. And then let's see, at 4, negative 1, I'm going to have to put an open circle again. So we're looking at from here to here, but we don't include those endpoints. Okay, and so then let's see, our last one, we'll call this one y sub 3 is going to be equal to 1/2 x. Okay, so we want to be a little careful here. So we want values greater than or equal to 4. So we'll go ahead and start at 4, and that will be a closed circle. Now what you're going to notice is I'm multiplying what I'm plugging in by half. So whatever I plug in probably needs to be a multiple of 2 so that I don't get decimals. I mean, it's not the end of the world if you do get decimals, but I'm going to go ahead and jump all the way to 6. Okay, and all these are lines, so you really only need 2 points. If I wanted to, I could go ahead and jump to 8. It'll be a little off my graph, but that's fine. So all you're going to do is multiply it by half, which basically just cut all these values in half. So 4 times a half is 2, 6 times a half is 3, 8 times a half is 4. And so let's see, we've got a point at 4, 2, closed, and then at 6, 3. And then if I were to keep going, it would be a little off the graph over here, and that's fine. And so we'll go ahead and connect the dots, and that has an arrow on the end to indicate that it continues going that way, keeps going this way. Okay. The range here is going to be kind of interesting. So let's see, we go from bottom to top. So this is going to go from negative infinity all the way to negative 2. So that's the first part. So from negative infinity to negative 2, and it's a closed circle, so I'm going to include negative 2. Okay. Union. Then right here, it's just negative 1. As I go across this bar, it's all just negative 1. So negative 1, okay, union. And then as I jump up here, it looks like I'm going from 2 and then I'm going up to infinity. And so it's going to be a bracket 2 and then up to infinity. And there's your range. So that one was a little bit more challenging than just having 2 parts, but not too bad. Okay, so I have one left. All right, so looking at this one, so we'll start right here with this one. So we'll call that y1 is equal to 1/2 x minus 1. And we want values less than 0. Okay, so even though 0 is not included, we want to start at 0. So we'll start at 0, and you can put a little open circle over here just to whatever, remind yourself. And so we want values less than that. Now you'll notice it, once again, you're going to have to multiply by a half. So you probably want to plug in even numbers. So values less than 0, so like -2, -4. If you plug in the other ones, they're fine. You'll just be dealing with decimals, just trying to avoid that. So I'm plugging it in and then taking away 1. So 1/2 times 0 is 0. 0 take away 1 is -1. 1/2 times -2 is -1. Take away another 1, that's going to be a -2. Plug in -4. 1/2 times -4 is -2. Take away another 1, that's going to be -3. So we'll go ahead and plot this. So at 0, -1, I got an open circle. Let's see, at -2, -2, then -4, -3. And so we'll go ahead and connect that. There you go. Okay. Now you'll notice my middle section is going to be pretty small if you look right here. My parameters are only from 0 to 1. Okay. So from 0 to 1, we'll call this y2, it's going to equal 3. So, I mean, oops. Looks kind of interesting. Oops. All right, there we go. So there's my x, here's my y, and so it's going to equal -3 the whole time. Oops, let me see. Sorry, it's freezing up on me again. Okay, so hopefully it won't freeze up again. So, okay, so our parameters are from 0 to 1. And really, I mean, if you wanted to, you could do like a 0.5 or whatever if you want to add a couple extra things. But those endpoints are both going to be included. So 0 and 1 are both included. Okay, and the default, it just defaults to 3, 3, 3. So let's see, at 0, I'm up here at 3. At 1, I'm up here at 3. And at 0.5, I'm at 3. So anyways, it's just going to be this part right here. I'll just color with my pen. So there we go. And then our last part of this is going to be this right here. All right, so we'll call this y sub 3. So it's going to be equal to -2x. And so we want values greater than 1. So we are going to start at 1. It's going to be an open circle. And then values greater than 1 would be like, 2, 3, however far you want to go. And so we're just going to go ahead and multiply all those by -2. So -2 times 1 is -2. -2 times 2 is -4. -2 times 3 is -6. So we'll go ahead and plot these. So at -1, -2, and it's going to be an open circle. Then at 2, we're at -4. Then at 3, we're at -6. We'll go ahead and connect that right there. Okay. Okay, so this one's a little tricky because you've got some overlaps on your range, okay? And so if you look right here, you got some overlaps right here from -2 below. It's getting covered up twice, but that's fine. You don't really need to worry about that overlap. So basically this guy right here, this one on the left side, really covers up everything this one over here covers up. So you can really just kind of focus on this part right here. This is going to be from -infinity to -1. So let me write that down. -infinity to -1, but not including -1, okay, because of the open circle. So you might be thinking, oh, well, there's an open circle here at -2, but that's okay because this point covers it up. So even though that point is an open circle here, it's getting covered up by this other part of the function. Okay, so it's getting covered up here. So this right here, this whole thing down here, all this that range comes out to this right here, from negative infinity to -1. And then we don't want to forget that we have 3 up here that's getting covered up. So then we'll do a union 3. And that's our range that we're looking at. All right. So if you need any help, just send me an email.